The glass-walled executive suite on the 42nd floor smelled of fresh espresso and expensive leather, the kind of scent that usually made me feel small. Today it felt like a battlefield. I stood in the doorway of Vice President Marcus Hale's corner office, manila envelope in one hand, small rolling suitcase in the other. The late afternoon sun slanted through the blinds in golden bars across the polished walnut desk, catching the crystal decanter he kept for important conversations. He was already laughing before I even finished crossing the threshold. Marcus leaned back in his high-backed chair, arms crossed over his charcoal vest, that trademark smirk pulling at the corner of his mouth. The same smirk he'd worn when he'd passed me over for promotion 3 times, when he'd reassigned my best team members to his pet projects, when he'd told me in front of the entire department that my old-school approach was holding the company back. He was 51, going on invincible, silver at the temples, voice smooth as oiled machinery. "You're actually doing it," he said, the words dissolving into another chuckle that made the ice in his untouched Scotch glass tinkle. "Resignation. After 12 years? I thought you'd crawl back with another sob story about family obligations or whatever excuse you use to stay mediocre." He gestured lazily at the envelope. "Go on, hand it over. I'll sign it right now. Hell, I'll even throw in a reference if you beg nicely." My pulse hammered in my ears, steady but loud, like distant thunder rolling closer. I didn't flinch. I set the envelope on the edge of his desk with deliberate calm, then placed the suitcase upright beside it. The wheels clicked softly against the hardwood. He glanced at it, one eyebrow arching in mock curiosity. "What's that? Your sad little collection of desk tchotchkes? The motivational mug your wife bought you? Pathetic." Another laugh, shorter this time, edged with something sharper. "You know we own everything on your hard drive, right? Every slide deck, every email, every pathetic line of code you ever wrote here. You walk out with nothing but what fits in your pockets." I met his eyes, really met them, for the first time in years without looking away first. "I'm aware of the IP policy, Marcus. I've read it. Carefully. Multiple times." He snorted, reached for the envelope, flipped it open without breaking eye contact. His gaze dropped to the single page inside. The laughter died in his throat like someone had flipped a switch. His lips moved silently as he read the subject line at the top, "Notice of immediate resignation and exercise of contractual rights under Section 7.4(b), Proprietary Knowledge Transfer Clause." The room went very still. Outside the glass, the open-plan floor buzzed faintly. Phones ringing, keyboards clacking, the low murmur of deals being made, but in here the air felt vacuum-sealed. Marcus's fingers tightened on the paper until it crinkled. When he looked up again, the smirk was gone. Replaced by something colder, tighter. Suspicion. "What the hell is this?" I unzipped the suitcase slowly. The sound was obscene in the quiet, teeth parting one by one. Inside, nestled in foam cutouts like precious artifacts, sat 3 small black SSD drives, each labeled in neat white marker, Project Nexus Archive, 2018 to 2025, Client Master Dataset, Unredacted, Internal Audit Trail, Hale Directive Chain. His face drained of color so fast it looked like someone had pulled a plug. The Scotch glass trembled in his hand, a single drop escaped over the rim and darkened the blotter. "You can't," his voice cracked on the first syllable. He cleared his throat, tried again. "Those are company property. You signed NDAs. You can't just." Section 7.4(b), I repeated, voice low but clear. "The Proprietary Knowledge Transfer Clause you yourself insisted on adding during the 2020 restructuring. The one you bragged about in the all-hands because it protected executive discretion. It states that in the event of resignation due to documented material breach of fiduciary duty or hostile work environment, the departing employee retains the right to remove one archival copy of any project documentation directly related to said breach, for personal legal protection only." I paused, letting the words settle like lead weights. "You documented everything, Marcus. Every directive. Every back-channel email chain telling me to bury the red flags in the Nexus client reports. Every time you overruled compliance because the quarter needs to look pretty. Every time you told me my job was on the line if I didn't make the numbers match the story you wanted to tell the board. I kept copies. Time-stamped. Backed up. Legally obtained under the clause you wrote. His breathing had gone shallow. The hand holding the glass shook so badly now that more scotch sloshed onto his cuff. He didn't seem to notice. "You're bluffing," he whispered. But the words lacked conviction. His eyes kept darting to the drives, then to the door, then back to me as though calculating how many seconds it would take security to reach this floor. "I'm not." I reached into the suitcase and lifted the top drive, holding it between thumb and forefinger so the label faced him. "This one has the full email thread from last March. You remember? The one where you wrote, and I quote, 'Make the exposure figures match forecast or find a new place to park your mortgage. Sent from your personal account, CC to no one, but conveniently saved in the server archive you never bothered to purge.'" Marcus stood abruptly. The chair rolled back and hit the credenza with a thud. "You think you can blackmail me? You think the board will believe some disgruntled middle manager over me? I don't need the board to believe me yet." I set the drive back down with care. "I just need them to know I have it. And I need you to know that if anything happens to my family, my reputation, my references, if any whisper of retaliation reaches me, these drives go straight to the SEC, the DOJ, and every major financial outlet that's been sniffing around our last 3 adjusted quarters. Not out of spite. Out of necessity." His mouth worked soundlessly for several seconds. The invincible man who'd laughed at my resignation now looked like a cornered animal. Eyes wide, pupils blown, sweat beading along his hairline despite the perfectly controlled office temperature. "You've been planning this," he said finally. The accusation came out almost pleading. "Planning?" I gave a small, bitter laugh, the first real emotion I'd allowed myself since stepping into the room. "No. Surviving. Every late night you made me rewrite reports. Every weekend I lost because you needed one more revision. Every time my daughter asked why Daddy was always tired and I had no answer that didn't sound like a lie. I didn't plan to take these. I planned to trust the system. You taught me better." He sank back into the chair as though his legs had simply given up. The scotch glass clinked against the desk when he set it down. For the first time in 12 years, Marcus Hale looked small. Outside, someone laughed in the bullpen, bright, carefree. The sound felt like it belonged to another world. "What do you want?" His voice was hoarse. "Defeated." "Nothing." I zipped the suitcase closed. The finality of it echoed. "I want to walk out of here with my life back. I want my wife to stop asking if I'm okay every night. I want to look my kids in the eye and not feel like I'm selling pieces of myself to keep the lights on. You can keep the title, the office, the view. Just stay out of my way." I picked up the handle. The wheels whispered across the floor as I turned toward the door. "Thompson." His voice stopped me, thin and cracked. "If those drives ever." "They won't." I glanced back over my shoulder. "Unless you make them. That's the deal. You forget I exist. I forget you exist. The drives stay in a safe deposit box. Quiet. For as long as everyone behaves." He stared at me, really stared, like he was seeing me for the first time. Not the reliable manager. Not the yes man. Just a man who'd finally stopped bending. I stepped into the hallway. The glass door side shut behind me. The open floor stretched out ahead, alive with motion. Heads turned as I passed, wheeling the small case behind me. Whispers followed like ripples. Some faces held confusion. Some held quiet understanding. A few, even a few, held something close to respect. I didn't look back at the corner office. I didn't need to. The elevator dinged. Doors opened. I stepped inside, suitcase at my side, envelope still on his desk like a period at the end of a very long sentence. As the doors closed, I heard it faint, muffled through the glass. Marcus Hale laughing again. But this time it sounded different. Broken. Empty. The car began its descent, floor numbers ticking down like a heartbeat slowing to normal. For the first time in years, my own chest rose and fell without that constant, crushing weight. I was going home. And I was taking everything that mattered with me.